Welcome back to the second hour of One Bills Live. Thanks for joining us. We are pleased to be joined now by Nate Tice, who's a Yahoo NFL writer. He hosts also the Football 301 podcast. Nate joins the show. Nate's also joining the NFL Network as an analyst for the 2024 season. Congratulations on that. When did you find out about that? That's new, right?
Yeah, it's new. It's been in the works for a while, and honestly, I didn't hear anything for a good 6 weeks. So I was like, "Is this even still happening?" And then they announced it. So yeah, I actually have to get used to that intro too because I've been sitting on it for a while. So I'm very excited. But thank you for that introduction.
That's awesome. Thanks for joining us here.
Found out the rest of us about 2 weeks ago.
That's right. Cool. Yeah. We're just winding up. The training camps now are all over. The preseason's done. Everybody's revving up for the opening weekend, and everybody gets Labor Day weekend off. What are your thoughts now about just in general now about Buffalo's roster as we head into this opener?
I like it a lot more than maybe I did 2 months ago. And maybe it's this guy named Josh Allen. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're really good. I really like you. I really like what you do. But it's other things with this Bills team. I really like their run game. Even if the offensive line, maybe outside of Deion Dawkins, is more just fine. But it's pretty solid across the board as opposed to a lot of offensive lines that are maybe two guys missing, one guy that shouldn't be on any roster or playing. And I actually have been really liking what the Bills have done with Joe Brady and before that Ken Dorsey with their run game. I really do think they have found a formula that works for them as far as some under center runs. They've added some new things out of the gun that they do. They even hinted at some stuff in the preseason. That's cool to me with this Bills team. I actually really like that they're running some staples, but trying to be innovative with not just going, hey, Josh, go make a play. They're actually trying to help, trying to lift up the floor of the team. So the offense I'm pretty excited about. Even losing Stephon Diggs, I actually think that they're going to be the pass catchers are going to be the greater sums of their parts, where everybody's role makes sense to me. Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid working inside maybe. Khalil Shakir can move around, and I just it's really come together for me in the running back room, and I just trust the defensive coaches. Even if you lose guys that have been there for forever in the safeties, these guys have been banged up, and when they've had backups in there, this coaching staff has done such a good job of making sure everyone's doing their jobs well. So I don't think any floor is falling out. I've really come around about this Bills team where I'm like, yeah, I feel good about them way better than I did maybe 2 months ago.
All right, Nate, I have a softball question for you because everyone in Western New York has heard about Josh Allen earning the most votes from this player survey as the most overrated player in the NFL. As someone that's an analyst, that watches a lot of film, that understands the quarterback position pretty intimately, where do you come down on that? Do you think it's preposterous? Do you think there is some credence to it? Just what were your overall thoughts when you saw the video of them announcing Josh Allen as the most overrated player based on, a survey of the NFL players?
Yeah. Well, I'm on the right show for this rant. It's preposterous. Preposterous. Oh my God, I can't even talk. That's how fired up I am. He to me, after Mahomes, is the clear number two. And then there's a gap. And then there's the rest, and then a group of 3 or 4 guys, I would say, after that. So if you want to say that he's tier 1B after, or tier S, tier minus, whatever you want to say, I think Josh Allen has been underrated in the fact that he's really become a proper quarterback and not just a force of nature with a big arm and legs and can run past everybody, run over everybody. He handles pre-snap operation as well as anybody right now in the NFL. And I think that just goes by the wayside because we think of the plays like the Bengals game last year where he tries a whole shot and he throws a pick on it. That's what Josh Allen does. He completes that 5 times and everyone's like, oh, cool. But he makes it seem so normal that we kind of forget that that's the freakiest stuff that we see in the NFL. And that's the level that he's at. He's making the freaky seem, mundane. Like he makes that kind of stuff seem like, oh, just Josh doing Josh. And I think that the stuff that the layers that he's added to his game is, again, fallen by the wayside. The mental side, handling protections and moving guys around. I have multiple clips I've tweeted before where you can hear Josh Allen communicating and changing where the offensive line's going, but yet you only hear certain quarterbacks labeled as cerebral, the Burrows of the world. And that kind of, it's funny that you could be both. You could be cerebral and be the golden retriever from hell that Josh Allen can be sometimes as a quarterback. So I really do think that it's kind of the fact that he's been labeled as overrated is very surprising to me, because even how he plays, that even if you didn't know the mental side, watch him play and run around. And I know there's turnovers, but he tries so much that's going to happen. He's trying things. That's the usage rate of it all. So yeah, I think to me, Josh Allen solidified as an easy number 2. And it's kind of been funny. Others have kind of banged on this. At one point, Brian Urlacher got labeled as the most overrated player in the NFL, and then he followed it up with like 3 straight All-Pro teams. Like, but players aren't really evaluating a lot of All-22, so that I will say that.
So we got this new offensive coordinator, and a little bit of excitement about what Joe Brady can do with a full off season with Josh Allen, the running back room. When Joe Brady took over, let's face it, they were 6-6 coming down the stretch. They had to win these games to get in the playoffs, and they did. And one of the byproducts of that, and the interesting stats, was they ran the ball 52% of the time when they were coming down the stretch in must-win games. Now, as you said, their offensive line's bigger, more athletic without Mitch Morris, and they've got Ty Johnson, James Cook, Ray Davis. They got some nice. I mean, is this a little bit of a shift in what the Bills might ask from Josh Allen?
It's a continuation of a shift. Yeah, you already kind of hinted at it. And this is kind of what I was talking about with the run game stuff. I think before it was their run game was a good helping of Josh Allen's legs, and now they're trying to be a traditional run game, meaning not even QB read stuff, more just hand the ball off and block. No RPOs attached to it. And this has been a long trend for, I think, this Bills offense, even from when Dable was here. And the game that always comes to mind was a Buccaneers game, so it must have been 2021. They were playing at Tampa, and I remember in that game was that the Bucs, Todd Bowles, they were trying to run all these RPOs and quick game stuff, and they were just like, sure, go for it, 2 yards, tackle, fine. We'll make you throw another hot route, and you have to throw another bubble, and we'll tackle it. And ever since that game, there's been just in the building, no matter who's been calling plays for him, there's just been some evolution of like, hey, which church and state our run game and our pass game? We're a traditional drop back pass, some play action stuff, and we're a traditional run game where we just hand the ball off. And then when, push comes to shove, all right, Josh, all right, let's go. Let's dial up some plays for you. And I think that we're going to kind of continue to see that under Brady. Like this summer, they've already used an adjustment on a zone run that I've only seen college teams use. And I've been curious if an NFL team uses it, and the Bills were using it in the preseason. They didn't even save it for the regular season. And so that's why I think that, I don't think that's going away. I think they're just going to continue to add the layers. Adding Ray Davis is a really nice, subtle draft pick for them, because he is more to what I think they want to do, where it's like they want 5 yards. This isn't a run game to get 20 yards to be explosive. They're going to get that through the passing game. They just want this to be hyper efficient. That's where Ray Davis comes in. And I think they have the horses to do it. There's a lot of teams that want to do this, but the Bills actually have the scheme, the personnel, and they already have proof of concept that they've done it before. So, yeah, I think that's not going away, where this becomes more of a 50-50 run-pass split kind of team.
Moving across the AFC East, just give me your general thoughts on the Patriots quarterback decision. Do you think they made the right decision going with Jacoby Brissett, or were you kind of tantalized by what we saw from Drake May throughout the preseason and thought, hey, they should just throw him out there? Because we usually don't see these, especially first-round quarterbacks, sit for that long in today's NFL.
Yeah, all the way the Patriots kind of tell us what they're going to do. As far as that, they're taking this guy, May, along very slowly. I thought the footwork stuff was all kind of overblown, because I thought that was extremely workable with a guy like May, who's young, hasn't played in an offense that was very, was very detail oriented. It was very just loosey goosey, and he's athletic. And, better athletes can usually learn things a lot quicker. I've learned from experience as a poor athlete masquerading as a good one. But it's when I think that this was the fine decision, because they just want to make sure that first couple of weeks when they're trying to gel this offensive line, they're more worried about the O-line than anything. I think everybody knows this.
Yeah.
And I think it's more that they don't want to have that first game. The first game they go against Lou Anarumo, defense coordinator for the Bengals. they don't want it to also be every third down is there's two guys unblocked and he can't even complete a third down pass. And that anytime they get behind the chains, oh my God, it's just he's sliding uphill. My counter argument to that is he was used to that in North Carolina. And also in the preseason, he already showed that he can escape out of that either with his arm, his mindset, because he's super aggressive, or his legs. So that's where at first I was with them where I was like, no, I get keeping him on the bench for at least a month until you guys figure out the O-line. I trust that O-line coach Peters. He's a Bill Callahan guy. I trust that they'll figure it out. I also trust that May's more mentally advanced than people have given him credit for it. And they've kind of hinted at that. They said he still has to work on things. So this is a long-winded way to say, if it was my money, yeah, I would have played May. Like I would have played him because I think these guys, he's a guy that would learn rapidly with reps. Even if they aren't the best reps, he's going to learn rapidly because he's such a good athlete. And I think his mindset's right. But I'm not in that building. They might be terrified of that line even more than I am. I'm like, yeah, they're going to figure it out. I'm not in that building. So I get the concerns that they have. The Patriots are on their own timeline. They are telling everyone, we're doing this how we want to do it. I respect that, even if I'm a little bit more like, open up the present. Like, come on, let's see it. Let's say, what do we got? What do we got? So it's not my team, though. So I understand their decision.
Is there a little bit, can you see the rationale that if you do start Drake May, and here's the thing. When you start the season, no matter how bad your roster is or how it looks, you still got a shot to get there. And if Drake May plays and he's not playing quite well enough and you start digging a hole that you'll never get out of, then it's like, well, we got to save the season. Then you have to make the change, and then you're stuck. Now you got to switch back at some point, right? So
that's such a great point. The kind of card you could play. Oh, we're benching Jacoby now. Now we can put in Drake. If you play Drake right away, the die
there's
has
no
been
place
cast.
to go.
This is it.
There's no place to go.
Exactly. It's a great point. I mean, remember Josh's rookie year? Yeah. They were running out Nathan Peterman. And even though I'm sure at practice, even if Josh, at the time before he's kind of really refined his game, I'm sure he was doing some things that everyone's like, oh my God. Because that's what I heard in Kansas City was that it took about 2 weeks and everyone's like, yeah, I think we hit on this Patrick Mahomes guy. All right, but let's not play him too much and get the secret out a little bit. So I'm sure it's pretty hard once you have that on hand and see it every day.
One of the things that we want to ask you about as well down in Miami, Mike McDaniel took over that team in 2022. They hadn't had a top 10 offense since 2001. And now, they're at the top of the league offensively. They are going through their next defensive coordinator, but I don't think there's any question Miami's doing the right thing in extending McDaniel, tying him up to Tua's contract, the whole thing. And it's a guy that really seems to have steadied the ship in Miami, and they signed him to a new deal through 2028.
They're reminding me a lot of Don Nelson, the old basketball coach, and his teams, like the Warriors and stuff. Great regular season team. That's where I've gotten with the Dolphins is that he's so innovative. McDaniel has really earned my respect when things have gone south, especially 2 years ago, when they kind of got figured out a little bit. Injuries happened and they got solved a little bit. Some of their offensive stuff. He right on the fly adjusted some things. Another team that went from like, oh, we're running RPOs to, hey, receivers, you're blocking now because we're going to help out our run game. I really respected that a lot, even if the results weren't always great, that he was willing to go, this stuff that was our 102-mile-an-hour fastball, guess what? Defenses are jacking it over the fence now. So we got to change it up, start throwing some junk pitches. That's hard to do. That's really hard when you're in the heat of things to go like, yeah, we're getting away from what works for us. So this is kind of a longer way to say, like, I think this is one of the top offensive minds. I'm not crazy in saying that with points and everything that you see. But even just innovations, I wouldn't say innovations, just new twists that he's kind of using, especially in the run game, are really, really cool. And again, another guy that's already hinted at some stuff in the preseason that it's not over. It's not like he already used every trick in his bag. He's one of these guys every week. I'm like, what you got? What you got this week? Right. Like, what's the little twist that you're throwing out there this week? So yeah, you pay those guys because you don't want, there's only a few of those guys in the league that are like this, that are actually innovative as a play caller and a play designer. So pay him. Yeah. And it seems like the players love him. I know the Tua stuff with the Flores stuff that to me should have been a private matter, but I get what happens. But you can hear how all the players love McDaniel and they love playing for him. All right. So he's a great offensive mind. Has to figure out keeping a defensive coordinator more than 1 year. That would be one thing I want to ask about. But Players seem to love him. Coaches that I know of love working with him. I've worked with him years ago in Atlanta when we were both lowly assistants. But not a lot. I was scouting. He was coaching. But just seeing all that, these are the guys that you want to keep. Even if you maybe go 9-7 or 9-8 or 10-7, maybe you don't make a playoff run. Okay, give him chances and bites at the apple to maybe figure this out. They've kind of pushed all in anyways with all these trades and vets that they go after. But I don't know. He's one of the top offensive minds, and you don't let those guys go, even if sometimes the results aren't perfect.
Super quick follow there, and you don't have to give a long answer here. Do you think there is any more pressure on Tua now that he got the contract, or do you feel like, hey, he's got the contract, even if they lose in the wild card round and he doesn't play well, it's just going to be fine? Or do you still feel that there is a little bit of pressure on him to kind of prove that he can, elevate his game to the rest of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, or I guess in the AFC, and perform well in the postseason?
Yeah, when you get paid, excuses get taken away. If you want me to get going on Jalen Hurts, I could do that as well. But it seems like we keep coming up with excuses for some of his stuff. But to me, as someone around the NFL, and I think that's a locker room thing too, where it's like, hey, everyone knows how much you're making. So it's kind of like, all right, if you have the playoff game against the Chiefs last year, is that what we're paying you for? And that is what the demons he has to exercise. And now it's been multiple games and multiple instances where that's what it looks like in cold weather, or when they face a hyper specific defense like they do late season or in the playoffs, where they're like, hey, we're going to take away your, again, fastballs, and take this way, make you work for it. So once you get paid, though, there's no excuses. There's no mean coach to blame. There's no weather that you can blame on. Patrick Mahomes didn't have issues with the weather. So that is, to me, is that, so again, longer way, I'm very long-winded to get to my short answer, is that it's the pressure's on him. I think more than the coach, because I think the coach has done plenty and he got paid too, to show that he can put up points, even with injuries too. But when you are the quarterback and the dude that's the most highest paid guy on the roster easily, you have to step up if others aren't stepping up. So that's the whole argument of win because of or win with. And right now, Tua is just win with. Your other things are driving it. But again, the math shifts when all of a sudden you add 3 extra zeros to your bank account.
Yeah, good point. Exactly.
Yeah.
one more got to ask you about before we go, and let's stick in the AFC East, the New York Jets. The one team that has consistently given Buffalo real problems, even when the Bills are playing well. The Jets have an incredibly good roster.
They really do.
They do have a 40-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles who needs to take, Nate, 1,000 snaps this year at quarterback to get through the season and get him to the play, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets.
Gladly. I've really struggled how to picture the offense, because it's what do I want to bet on? That they're all going to be healthy, they're all going to play 16 or more games. I know it's 17, but just even 16 or more, or that one or multiple of these guys, especially the new faces, are going to get hurt at some point this year. Not even just Aaron Rodgers, who's again a 40-year-old coming off an Achilles. And Achilles is the worst. Knees are, ACLs and MCLs and everything are definitely a long recovery. But now it's turned into 9 months. You can maybe be running a year. You're 90% in about 16 months. Okay, now you're about 100%, 18 months. And then Achilles, more to me, is a 2-year injury, where it's a year that you're pretty sapped of it, of your explosiveness. Not that Rodgers is going to ever thrive as Lamar Jackson, but, he moves in the pocket. He scrambles on those third downs. Now he's 40, just another year. And Achilles is, you also can't do other things, can't bulk up as much, so maybe weight things are part of it. But then moving off of Rodgers, Tyron Smith was healthy for most of last year, which is that's the exception, not the rule with Tyron Smith. And he's another year older. And you never know when guys switch medical staffs. That could be bad because it just switches everything with how they do things. Having said that, now you get to Mike Williams, who leaves Chargers medical staff. So maybe that's a good thing that he's leaving there. So that's the thing. But he's been hurt every single year of his career. He's been hurt in college. Elijah Vera Tucker, Pro Bowl caliber talent at guard, has been hurt every year as a pro. What am I betting on if I, as a neutral person, that they're all going to stay healthy? or are they all going to get hurt? I would bet that 1, 2, or 3 of those guys get hurt and misses 2 or more games. That scares me because then you dip into depth. Olufshanu, I think, is going to be a very good player. That helps a little bit. But Rodgers, we're going Tyrod Taylor. Mike Williams, we're going Alan Lazard for 50 snaps a game again. Like, that's, he's only there because of being Rodgers' buddy. He's more of a receiver 4 or 5 blocking guy. He sets picks. And so that, for me, is that I don't know how to encapsulate that. It's like, if this all goes healthy and goes right, this could be a borderline top 6 offense, top 5 offense. Like, because I trust the run game. I like Garrett Wilson a lot. Like, they have Braylon Allen behind Breece Hall. Like, they even backed up the running back spot now. I really like that. But just can't. I want to be realistic. It's a heart and head kind of thing with the Jets offense. On defense, they're going to be good, very good. I think the defensive line, their pass rush lost a little bit of teeth. Just the depth. What made the Jets pass rush so scary, why they kept getting after the Bills, they didn't have to blitz, and they could just rotate all these demons at defensive line and one after another, and now they lose a couple of those guys. Yes, Jermaine Johnson steps up, but Jermaine Johnson on 25, 30 snaps is different than Jermaine Johnson on 50 snaps. You got other guys. Will McDonald. It's okay. He's different than the other guys that they had backing up. What's his name? Hasn't even showed up. Hassan Reddick. Right. He's going to get fined $5 million by the end of this when it's all said and done. Right. Losing Breece Hall Bryce Huff. Losing Bryce Huff. He was a valuable role player for them. So it's just it's going to be a good, very good defense because the back end's amazing. I like their linebackers. They still have Quinnen Williams and Quincy Williams. So it's like they're still going to be good, very good. But just that half step back to maybe top 7, 8 defense as opposed to top 2, amazing. Mm-hmm. You can't even move the ball. We're going to defeat CJ Stroud, like just all that stuff. So it's hard for me to picture them. Like I can, but I also just want to be realistic that I think defense takes a half step back. Offense could be up and down because of the injuries.
NFL writer for Yahoo, also the host of the Football 301 podcast, Nate Tice. Thanks for joining us, and congratulations on being an NFL Network analyst for this season. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Nate.
Thanks for having me. That was a lot of fun.